All things fail save dreams.
The best artist is the
I
know, I'm not, I can't read.
Best artist
is the imperfect
Perfect artist. Wyndham Lewis.
I'm not sure that failure exists. That is, I'm not sure it's more than an elaborate fiction. I can't read. Failure's claim to existence is based on a dualistic separation in the world into areas of success and failure. The word itself, failure, is so loaded with judgment that draws distinctions like barriers.
Our use of such a word must be conscious, for it adds yet another snare to the discussion of risk. This is a dangerous area. The use of the word failure places the discussion in an area that is neither reported nor strict scholarship.
Most of us realize, of course, that there are no absolute failures. And yet we speak of failure with a kind of confidence and certainty which, in the face of doubt, is a kind of dare. We risk that much. Then we proceed into the inevitable.
For the ancient Greeks, the idea of success was intrinsically linked to the idea of perfection. In such a worldview, no idea could have been more foreign than the expressed by those dangerous new religions that glorified the potential of the child or the imperfections of a repentant sinner. The shift in values was profound when suddenly it was not the finished man who was chosen, but the imperfect disciple. When the sick, the afflicted, and children were no longer despised. For us, thousands of years later, the conflicting ideas of the ancient Greeks and early Christians operated within us simultaneously rather than sequential. This should not be possible, but it is. The result is that sometimes we view success as a finished perfection, at other times as the perfectibility of growth.
Since failure only exists in contrast to success, it too mirrors this contradiction. It can be considered as a kind of incompleteness, or as existence without grace. Paying attention to the way we seem to hold two opinions simultaneously and to the resultant judgments we make gives us an opportunity to explore some general attitudes towards human achievement. Given such radical ambivalence, what are the means we use to steer our guide of efforts?
I'd like to propose a new field of study to explore attitudes towards human judgment. A study of the science of failure in which anthropologists or philosophers might usefully engage, it is surprising to me that philosophers have not attended to the concept of failure. The more I think about it, the more I believe that the consideration of failure should exist as a distinct area of study, with some good humour, then an appropriate Greek roots. I have coined a neologism to encompass a theoretical concept of failure, an analysis of its mechanism and its consequences in guilt or shame. I propose anaprokopology, from ano, not, and prokopi, success, as a general term to designate the area of existence in which success is not achieved or is irrelevant. This particular study, however, lies within the general literature of connoisseurship, and concerns the process of making distinctions. Perhaps it can also be expanded to a broader relevance.
We are surrounded by the potential of failure. To what extent is the failure imaginary or real? Although we haven't yet any larger systematic study of failure, there is a modest literary genre in which many forms of failure are contrasted to a single instance of success. Probably the best known example is the New Testament parable of planting seeds. The seeds, by implication either us or the Word of God, are destined to failure if instead of landing on fertile ground, they fall either in the path on rocky ground or among thorns. There are dangers in each of these places. The seeds might be eaten by birds, trampled underfoot, choked by brambles, or succumb to drought. There are many ways to fail, it seems. But success is singular.
Such examples would lead us to believe that failure is more common than it is. Manifest failure, however, is relatively uncommon. Often one anticipates failure as the logical end of the path one is following, and when such a situation is sensed or recognized, the path can be abandoned. Perhaps that is why unfinished work used to be seen as a form of failure. In such a resonant example as the story of the Tower of Babel, the unfinished becomes a metaphor for failure itself.
Now, unfinished work is more often accepted as worthy of serious consideration. This shift in values is one on which artists and art historians have had some effect. The metaphor absorbs processes of Michelangelo's later sculpture, St. Matthew, the Rodinane, Pieta, and Dying Slave. We see the figures as bound and imprisoned in the rock. Today, the unfinished is considered a convention. And there is general agreement that the Michelangelos are masterpieces. We no longer need to face the unfinished with a negative prejudice or a suspended judgment. We have begun to look at a work as somehow complete at every point in its development.
While it is true that many inevitable failures are abandoned, others get finished. Milimumin